Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on a reel that Robert has sent in. This one is a quantum probe ball bearing reel, and he says, well, it's screaming when he's casting, and there may be some gear slip in there. Not quite sure about all of that. This one was, when Quantum was part of Zebco, still is, and Zebco and Quantum are now part of the group that owns and controls Lose reels. This one was made in Korea. Well, if we put this in the free spool and we give it a test, yeah, there's a lot of noise going on in there. You can hear it. One more shot of that. All right, well, we're going to take it apart. That can mean a bad bearing. It could mean dirt. And he says it seems like there's some skipping going on in the gears. So we'll do an inspection of that as well while we are at it. Functionally, it seems to work. And, well, we'll just take it apart, see what we can learn, and hopefully we can fix it and give the reel a second chance for Robert to take it fishing. He said he's had this reel a long time. May have even been that he caught one of his early bass on there. Well, this is not a good start here. We've got a buggered up screw. I'm not sure what we're going to be able to do with this. Well, whenever you have that screw that's butterflied and you can't get at it, the only alternative you have is to drill it out, knock the head off, and hopefully be able to pull the back end of that spool, that screw off, and then find a replacement. That's kind of where we are with that one. Fortunately, these handles are generally interchangeable. You just need to know the inner dimensions of the piece, and if you can find that, you can, if you have trouble, you can find a replacement for it. Let's see if we can get this out now. Okay, so the stud itself on that screw was not the problem. It was the over torquing of the screw itself. So I think we're going to get this piece out here and maybe even find a connector for that. All right, that's out. We now have a hole that we can get a screw for if we can find one. And we'll just kind of continue on here. Hopefully the rest of this goes a little bit easier than that first part. There's three screws here that are holding this case on. Once you break them, you can pull them out. And actually, not only is this holding its case on, it's also holding the side plate on this one on as well. So the reel was working, but it's nice and loud. And, well, that never bodes well. I'm not sure the last time this has been serviced. It's obviously been opened up because of that over-tightened screw. It also has a little flip gate here. That's not going to get in the way of anything, but you can service your line guide doing that. All right, here's your back end of this. This is a good place to tell you to take pictures along the way as you're working on these. If you don't have the schematics for this, the pictures are probably the next best thing. I think what's happened here is this brake is off. Looks like it was epoxied onto here at some point in time, and that's gone. Maybe that's making the noise. Seems like that's probably your noisemaker. Just before we go too much further here, I'm just going to put this assembly back on without that brake. And if that's the situation, at least we know we can probably epoxy it back on. But that sounds like something that would cause that issue. Case back on. Had that on the wrong way. I was looking inside at the case for that. Set that case. Let's bring these screws back and see without that break if that fixes the concern. If it is, it's an unusual one, but things do fail. All right, let's see. There you go. No noise. So that's your issue here. This has come unglued. And well, we'll see if we can't get some epoxy there. Put that back on, and let's continue with the service. We've got the reel apart now. Might as well service the reel, show you how that's done. And we'll take care of that spool thing after the video. So we've taken out the 3 side plate screws. So much of reel repair is diagnosis. And well, just understanding how those reels are made and how they come apart and how they go back together again. We should be able to pull this spool out too. All right. There's 2 screws that are holding the bridge on this side. When I take my parts off the reel, I put them into a parts tray. That helps me to organize them for the return trip. And well, it can help you as well. You can see that the magnets on this one are rusted. And that's usually because those are steel magnets, and with the exposure to water over time, they will rust. They'll still be effective, but they'll be rusty. All right, there's 2 bridge screws here that are holding the case onto the bridge. I'm going to remove those next. And take our side plate off. And underneath that is your look at the reel itself. Take a picture here. There's a lot of plastic, even though it's an older reel. We have our yoke, our jack, our yoke springs, which I like to remove as soon as I can because they tend to fall off. We have our spool here. I think we can just push the spool out now. Let's take that out. Set that to the side. This is your drive gear for your level wind assembly. Pull that out. And remove the main gear assembly. This has got one of those older technology anti-reverses. It's a forked anti-reverse dog. It's run by tension. Pull that up and out. We have our little click mechanism below. We can leave that on there. Remove your pinion gear and yoke. And we can clean this jack up and the sides. You don't need to remove this jack. As long as you get the stuff out of the way and you can get rid of the old greases, generally speaking, you're in good shape. That's easy enough. We're going to set that side down. I'm going to pull the anti-reverse dog so I can get a cloth and clean up the click ratchet. You want to get the dirt off of it. That dog is a friction device. And as a friction device, anything that gets between it and the metal could cause it to slip. Robert did have a note in there about possible gear slip, but I'm not seeing it. I didn't see any unusual wear on the gears itself, but we'll go back and we'll make sure of that prior to getting this completed. Now, I like to get these off the desk as soon as I can. So we've cleaned that up. We're going to bring this back. There's no oiling on those 2 pieces. We're fine there. Let's take a look at that pinion gear. That pinion gear looks like it was just put in there yesterday. Take a look at the main gear. Just as good. And before I start greasing up, I'm going to put a glove on now. And that should help. So I guess what was happening there is we had a free-floating brake plate, if you will, and well, that just caused this thing to make noise. Otherwise, it's pretty good. All right, the yoke is clean. We're going to put some grease onto the pinion gear. When you look for your yoke now, find the two ramp sides. Those are going to face in. Find the slot in the pinion gear, that faces in. And the assembly here just goes right over the top again. We're kind of reversing down on that. And what we can do at this point as well is we can put a little bit of oil onto that trip mechanism. Pull the key off there. Okay, next one is you want to put this gear in first. That's for your line guide. It's plastic or Teflon. You don't need to oil that. But this has got a ridge on it, so you can't put this one in after you install the main gear. Take a look at the washer. It seems fine. See if I can't pick that out. Yeah, we're in good condition with this one. It's got some glazing over it. It's a hard washer, so you don't need to or shouldn't lubricate them. And you can generally pull that glazing off. I'm just using a wire brush here. That'll generally knock off the glazing. Put that back on. We know that there's a washer underneath here. Just make sure that the main gear is cleared around that washer. Because again, that anti-reverse dog is going to ride kind of here. That's what that washer is for. That washer is a buffer. I'll put a little bit of grease onto this. Use fishing reel greases and oils only, please. Don't go using the household stuff. You know, it kind of gets you in trouble there. All right. Next up then is the washer. You have a spacer below and above the bearing. I want to oil that bearing. It's a shielded bearing. It will accept oil. Spacer above it. And we have the two tension washers. They're belled, or bowed, or convex, or concave. And the last thing we need to do to close this side up is to put the two springs back on the yoke. Okay, we're set up on this side. And take our case. We can bring that back in now. I just want to check on this. I think it probably makes sense to put this gate back on first. This gate is going to snap in from below. Got that right. Bring this over. Seat it and make sure that you're nice and tight and flush around all of the seams. And then we'll get those two center screws that are going to hold this to the bridge. Well, if you have any questions on this reel, if you are wondering anything about the form and format of it, or the company, anything like that, if you leave that on the comment section, I do try to answer those questions for you. All right, we're going to pull this back a little bit now. I noticed that there was some thumping going on there with the string itself when I was testing, so we'll take that, bring that back out. Trying to find a scissor to cut that. And then I'll just put a rubber band on there. That'll hold it all in place. And while I'm doing that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel, particularly if you like the art of reel service and repair. I do work on all kinds of reels. You can see that kind of just taking a quick look at what's been published in the channel. But also you'll find that There's other types of information. There's product reviews. There's salt water and freshwater types of videos in there. And well, that'll help you to sort out which ones you want to see, which ones you want to learn more about. All right, I think that just from this falling, this is evidence of epoxy here. So I'm going to just go do that right now. I'm going to put some epoxy on here, hold the plate, and then we'll come back and see if that's cured the issue. I'm simply going to use a Gorilla Glue epoxy because it's a quick set. It sets in 5 minutes. This is a one-on-one mix. It's hardener and the actual epoxy. The whole trick with epoxy is to keep that mixture clean. And I'm going to use kind of what you use for rod building, a little cup. And I'll use a plastic stirrer. And it's equal parts hardener and epoxy. I'll put that back on. Try to keep that fresh. I have a little stirrer. And make sure that you stir this thoroughly. Now we don't need much for this particular project here, but you shouldn't be working in batches any more than what the time to harden is. So if we only have 5 minutes here, you should only have a little bit. Don't mix up a whole cup, in other words. Now that doesn't mean anything here, but it means something if you're rod building and you're trying to create that mixture to seal the threads. I'm just going to go right over where it was. Not only is it a stirrer, you can spread with it as well. Okay, this is the outer part of the brake. You can see how the magnets have run on it. There's 2 positions here that line up for those studs. We're just going to press that down for a moment, hold it, and we'll come back in 5 minutes or so. It says it hardens in 5 minutes. We're going to just let that epoxy go do its work. Actually, I'm going to put this in a vise, and that should help it even more. Okay, it's been a 15-20 minutes. It was a coffee break. I did manage to clamp this on to hold that tight, and it said sets in 5 minutes. So we're going to take it right now that it's set up enough. Yeah, it's dried. I can feel it there. Now, of course, this can be returned to Robert, and the cure period is normally about, well, overnight, 24 hours. This certainly will take plenty of time before then to kind of travel in there, right? So we're going to reinstall that spool now. And before I close this up completely, I want to pull the cap off of the pawl so that we can service that. There's access from underneath with the cap. And when you remove that pawl, check to make sure that it's free of dirt and debris. This one's clean. Didn't seem to be anything when I tested. There was that issue, but one never knows, so do that. And of course, this doesn't work very well with big fingers, so I'll use that micro pliers here to see if I can't get that set in. And then you want to turn your reel a little bit here. To seat that ball. Once you do that, you can bring your cap back on. Again, this is, if it's out of your view, I apologize. It's kind of working in a tight space here. But we will do our best to show you what you should be doing, even if we can't kind of show it to you as well as I might like. All right. This is going back on. Now there's a bar that's going to come through here and set that, so don't worry too much if you see it's moving back and forth. That's all about that bar. You can actually start that right now. There's a bar that comes through here, through the shaft, and that's going to close up the side plate on the other piece of that. So, all right, so we're going to close that. I'm going to bring the side plate back on now. That's a bushing, not a bearing. Put a little bit of grease onto the bushing center where the spool is going to ride. We can carry this in. I want to do it this way. I think it's easier. Okay, just bring your case on. Again, just like the other one, make sure that we are tight seamed here. Now let's start with the one that we just put through there to hold that down. Get them started. Don't tighten them down all the way because you want to take the opportunity to set all three of these before you start bringing them down. Sometimes there's a little play in tolerance there that is missing. All right, those three are done. Now you can finger tighten them. There is a little slot in these, and you can grab it with a screwdriver to just make that last quarter turn or so. But you should be able to tighten this down enough by hand. All right, we have the drag stack is on. Now it's time to put the star adjuster on. We can close the gate, tighten down the star adjuster. We still have to address that cap retainer. And the tension washer goes on, your handle goes on, and I'm not sure if we're going to have to fish this one without the retainer cap. We have to find that screw for the handle here or something along that line. All right, tighten that up, tighten it down on the drag before you make the last few turns of the handle nut. All right, what have we done? We've completely taken the reel apart. We were looking for what was making the noise. We found that the brake plate on the spool was detached, and well, we re-epoxied that back onto the spool in the hopes that that will hold it and eliminate the noise. We cleaned up the reel. We showed you how the reel was made on the inside. We inspected all of the gears. We cleaned up the pawl. You can't put a drop of oil in there. We didn't do that. Drop of oil there. Re-lubricated the side plate of the reel, and now it's well, it's ready to give it a test. I'm going to push down on the free spool. We're a little tight, but we don't have that noise. You have a bearing adjuster cap here. Back that up a little bit, or a lot, depending on how you like to spin it. That's all on you. I'm not hearing the noise. Click, close. There you go. So that was it. You have the adjuster over here on the mag. That will help with the spin. I'm not sure if I'm on max or min. Spin it the other way. Yeah, there you go. Okay. And Robert has a nice reel that's ready to go fishing again. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed working on it. Always fun for me to find the unusual. This one certainly was unusual in terms of a failure, and it's always fun to fix it. Again, I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank our first responders for everything it is that they do. And I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. And if you do subscribe to the channel, please use that notification button. That will let you know when I'm posting. And, well, you can make a decision as to whether that's something you would like to watch. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody fun on the waters and a great day fishing.